Yeah, it's actually a good week. I'm doing lots of catch up and clean up, and so I try not to take time off during the holiday period for that reason because it's a good quiet time
Yeah,
um, to kind of clean things up.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna hit record and
Okay.
then start. Hey, welcome to Life's Not Linear. So today I get to interview Elsa Letts. So Elsa, could you please give us an introduction? Tell us a little bit about your story, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to setting up this interview and picking my brain a little bit about my upbringing and uprising into in the Verizon wireless world. I've been with Verizon for over 20 years now, but I'm actually slightly probably a little bit different from some of your candidates or interviewers. I was born and raised across the pond in Portugal. And I came to the US at the age of 17. So I've been in this country for about close to 35 years now. I had graduated high school, started my first year of college in Portugal before my mother and I immigrated to the US. So the transition was slightly different, but and also hard in a way because when you're 17 years old and your whole world it revolves around you and your friends and school and college, having all of that taken away and sort of sort of your professional or educational roadmap kind of deviated from what you were planning had changed so dramatically was definitely very challenging to me. However, coming here actually did give me the opportunity to kind of start from scratch and reassess what really did I want out of life. And was it school sort of the thing that I wanted to do first, or were there other priorities that I wanted to tackle first within my life before I finished school? So I enrolled into the workforce at a pretty young age. I was in the industry business of car manufacturing close to my age of 19 going on 20. And I was work a small business community, but a very diversified one in the accounting department. And that kind of gave me the foothold to start to understand how businesses really worked in America and um, free trading, as well as, a lot of the legal and governmental regulations or deregulations and, how the businesses in America really had the opportunity to flourish. And if you wanted to accomplish anything in life, you had all of that at your, at your reach of your fingertips. You have to work really hard, of course, but starting from the beginning was really a good way to understand how everything worked. So I started as an account manager for General Motors car manufacturing, and from there on build up on those skill sets to move into accounting and other things within the company. And the company was about 1,000 employees. It was quite small, but it really gave me the platform to test and drive a lot of different functionalities and jobs to see what I'd like to do in life and what I didn't like so much, and maybe not pursue it while I was going to college at night. So school was important to me. I wanted to make sure that I had accomplished that, but it wasn't the priority for me and my family right out of the gate, right? I wanted to be established in a business environment and learn and grow from a college standpoint, from an education standpoint on the sidelines. And I was able to do that. And then after being in that industry for 10 years, I applied for a job at Verizon Wireless. And again, I started from the bottom up. I kind of left behind a lot of my skill sets in the financial and accounting community and started as an executive assistant to the marketing VP of Verizon. And that kind of exposed me to marketing and really to the passion that I today still own and pursue within my career. And that was really a great experience because I moved from a small business unit or a business company to a large corporation. And it's very dynamic and it's very different, in terms of the business model, right? So that gave me the ability to learn so much more at such a rapid pace. Verizon had just merged with 4 other companies, had just become Verizon. It was actually we were New Jersey Bell and a couple of other companies, and we merged to become Verizon. My VP had about 500 people under him. So just him alone was the size of my previous company, which was kind of just an eye opener, right? I went from a company of 1,000, close to 1,000 employees, to a company of millions of employees. I think as of today, we have 175,000 employees, if I'm not mistaken, which is dramatically different. And upon taking on that role, I tried to sponge and consume as much as I could within the definition and perimeters of that particular job rec, but I also wanted to expand. And upon every performance agreement review that I had with my VP, which became my mentor through the 5 years that I worked for him, we really worked on my performance appraisal and my opportunity growth, and to build that pathway to different positions within the organization and a different level of success. So I was with him for about 3 years, and then he promoted me to a consultant position within the marketing division. I was put in charge of mergers and acquisitions, and I did a very large merger for Verizon, which was when we acquired the Alltel company, and that was about 5 million customers. So I led that initiative, and it was a very big initiative with a lot of responsibilities and a lot of different tentacles. But again, I think that for every single person that is afraid to take risks or is in today's challenging times with COVID, my recommendation is don't be afraid to jump in a pool. It's about baby steps. It's about acquiring confidence. It's about building relationships, but it's also about having a desire to learn more and pass the knowledge that you have learned from others to others, so you can make more room for you to grow within other fields and other opportunities of career enhancement or growth. So from there, I kind of moved on to many different projects, including a very large one, which was a fraud project that we had, where we had about $20 million worth of fraud activity going on in the world of prepaid, because I'm in the prepaid space in Verizon Wireless. We do prepaid products and services. And again, I kind of led that initiative along with another partner of mine. We worked very closely with a lot of our law enforcement, local and all the way up to governmental, like FBI and Secret Service and so forth, to make sure that we had, and the courts, to make sure that we had the proper process put in place to identify the fraudsters, how the process was being done, how it was being sold online, what systems were actually broken in, and how to fix them, how to put efficiencies in place and barriers to prevent it from happening again with our external and internal vendors that were supporting these platforms. And then even to be able to go to court and represent Verizon Wireless in our own affidavits and self-discovery that we did with RT security and IT fraud teams and partners. So again, another dimension of the job, right? I mean, each project has its uniqueness and different environments that you have to, navigate through and support. So that was also another great experience. And about I want to say 6-7 years later, I got promoted to manager, and I've been in a manager role now for about 10 years. And I actually today in my role, I do all of the self-serve digital platforms. And what that really means is any initiatives that are done that support my products and services in the .com world, like the My Verizon applications, My Verizon Online, our sales platforms for .com, all of those products, services, user experience journeys are all kind of managed through me and through the design agency that I manage today that does all of the digital applications and experience for my 6 million customers.
Wow, that is a incredible journey of growth, and thank you so much for sharing like the different positions and what you've learned. But I want to touch on when you first came to the States. And you kind of mentioned like the transition was hard when, especially at that age, when you're leaving like your best friends and what you think is like your whole life. Um, so how did you handle that? How was that for you? What did you do to kind of like build a new home here for yourself? I know you said you started working right away, but I guess how was it mentally, emotionally?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very challenging, right? You know, when you live and you're born in your country, you have sort of that support community of friends and family and school and things of that nature that you might be struggling through trying to define or understand what your future should be mapped to. But at least you have sort of that support, you know, cultural environment that kind of helps you and guides you through it. When you come to a different country, like I did, and many millions of others do, right, on a regular basis, it's almost like you do have to almost kind of start from scratch, right? And you do have to be kind of very much open-minded and resilient. I think that the word is really resilient at the end of the day, right? Because it's challenging. I mean, I had many nights that I would sit and just stare at the sky and say to myself and my mom was a widower, and I would say to her, what are we doing here? Like, this is such a different world for me. And it's different in many different ways, right? It's not just being a teenager, but it's the culture, it's the environment, it's, you know, coming where I came from, where I lived in the countryside. My parents were winemakers and we had, you know, vineyards, to move to a city, and I lived in an apartment, you know. So I had to readjust to all of that different kind of environment lifestyle. And I had to start making friends from scratch and kind of understand where I wanted to infuse myself more into the American culture and leave sort of the Portuguese culture behind. And my Portuguese community, even though I lived in an area where there was heavily populated by Portuguese immigrants, I really wanted to kind of step away from that comfort zone, right? From that safety net, and push myself to be more part of the American fiber. So those are very challenging. School was also challenging, although I do have to say that when you come from Europe, you have a little bit more of a leg up because the European schools, they force you to take languages right out of the gate at a very young age. So when I came in, I already had 5 languages under my belt, and English was one of them. So it kind of gave me a little bit of an advantage to be able to assimilate and re-enter this new world that I was, you know, taking a leap of faith with a little bit faster. But it was hard. I mean, it was hard to go to school at night and having to work during the day and become a very quick adult, you know, at a very young age, and kind of lose a lot of that, you know, teenage, you know, life that I left behind in Portugal, and that so many young, you know, people here in America have the ability to do, right? Go to college for 4 years and enjoy college campus, and, you know, not just your academic growth, but then also that 4 years kind of stage in your life that you really get to enjoy being young and take advantage of all of those great things. So I often tell my nieces and nephews that have gone through that it's worth to just soak up and enjoy, you know, the ups and downs and the challenges and the happiness, because it's all part of, you know, of making you a stronger individual to go through those experiences. And a lot of us, like myself, really didn't have that opportunity, right? We kind of had to jump in the pool pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, it also made me realize how strong of an individual and how, you know, how my mind was so set in wanting to make sure that I was successful at it. It made me be very determined at succeeding and trying. And every time I fell, I just got up and I just tried it again, and kind of learn from the previous mistakes and avoid them, right? And try to take different routes and try to try different things. So I think those are the benefits of building sort of that stronger character, that I took advantage of it. Now, others might have a different personality and have, different challenges and look at it differently. I always try to think of life as more of a half full kind of cup versus a half empty. So, I kind of took it for what it was. And today I could say that, all of those heartaches and crying and begging my mother to give me my passport so I could head back home, we're all just part of life, part of experience. And my recommendation to anybody is just to never quit, like never think that you're not capable of achieving whatever dream you have, because you can and you will. You just have to keep pushing through it. It's all about persistence, and it's all about staying focused and believing in yourself at the end of the day. And when somebody tells you, oh, it's just too hard, why are you doing that? Just ignore those voices. They mean absolutely nothing. You just have to plow forward.
Wow, you stole my last question, right? Because I always ask, what's a piece of advice? And you just gave so much great advice. And I think kind of what you said about the glass half full and just getting up and trying again. I feel like my parents both immigrated from the Middle East, and I feel like that's just a common thing that once you take that deep dive, that leap of moving, like everything else is seems more doable. Even the hardest things that we, because if you can leave your home country, go across an ocean into a whole new country, you know, what's harder than that? I don't know.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and it reinforces that ability for, we all, as humans, we all have this capability of being risk takers, right? It's in our DNA. I strongly believe. It's just that sometimes the environment that we're in is not as conducive to push us outside of our comfort zone, for us to be risk takers. For others like yourself and your family and my family and many others that I know, we were literally pushed to be risk takers because we didn't have a choice, right? Our parents put us on a plane and kind of said, no, we're going, and we're gonna make do, and we're gonna survive, and we're gonna succeed. A lot of people in the US, young people in the US, are not exposed to that kind of experience because they were born and raised here. And this country is a wealth of opportunity in so many different ways, right? From education to jobs. And I know the times are hard, and they've always been hard. They've been hard for our parents, for our grandparents, for our great grandparents. We all have gone through struggles. And that's kind of what I try to tell my nieces and nephews. It's like when we think we have it bad, if we really look back at our previous ancestors, how much harder did they have it? And they've pushed themselves through some of those challenges, right? And those uncomfortable experience to make it better for us, right? So we always have an opportunity to make it better for us and make it better for the next generation that comes along. I kind of think that's the way we have to kind of think, in a way, because that is what brings that positiveness, outlook of life, that then drives you to become successful, right? If you think I'm and then out of that pain point to actually to try something else and to be successful at it. So it's all about your mind. It's all about how you see challenges, and you just have to look at them as an opportunity and not a deterrence.
Thank you so much, Elsa, for sharing your story today and for sharing such great advice. I really feel like empowered, and I really like how you said if you look back at our ancestors and how much they've gone through, that's kind of the point of this interview is like there are people who have gone through things that we could, never imagine or that we've never gone through, but it gives people hope that they can do the same thing. So I want to thank you again for being on the interview today and for sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure, and I hope that this um, just tidbit of my life could inspire others, right? To make them see the world through a different glass, through a different set of glasses, because sometimes we have a tendency to stay a little bit cocoon within our own, little nucleus of friends or family or inner circle that kind of tries to tap her back or try to pacify us or try to just, make our lives a little bit easier. And while that's all great to have that support net, which, it's incredibly important because that's what we need, we also need to be sometimes pushed out and say, you got to go out there and you have me, like my mother's always said to me, I'm always here for you, but you have to take your baby steps. You have to learn to walk, and you have to learn how to run, and you have to learn how to make mistakes and get up and push forward. Because it's up to you at the end of the day. We all make our own paths. And, if you're in school, continue on with your education. But remember, when you enter the workforce, remember to explore and expand, because it's not always what you learn in school that's going to make you happy. School is sort of like just a foothold to who you are, but it's really what you make of it once you're out of school and you enter the workforce. And make sure that you're talking to others, be part of a community that has different diversity of thought and ideas and perspectives of life, learn about different aspects of the businesses that you're in. Sometimes we think we want to be engineers, and then when we start working with marketeers, we might actually kind of discover that being a marketeer is a kind of cool thing. Just like I've discovered that being an engineer, and I work with a lot of engineers, and I've learned a lot from them, right? So I have to put on different caps on a different day for different projects. So that gives you really an opportunity to grow as an individual and to move on to different careers. If don't ever be afraid to take a different path in careers. I went from accounting to a marketeer, and I always thought I was a numbers person and sort of like that kind of bookworm kind of individual. And then once I learned about marketing, I just fell in love with it, right? And I kind of like, this is where I want to be. So, and school didn't give me that direction. School sort of just gave me sort of the foundation to understand logic and the philosophy of things, right? But it's not what made me good at what I do at my job. It's all about, real life practice and investment and learning and ability to expand your mind about things.
I completely agree with you. I really love that you keep hitting on the point of like don't be afraid because what's the worst that can happen? You can always go back to your other job. You can always find a new job. I like to say that nothing is permanent. So
Correct.
I agree with you. Always keep trying things.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Elsa, for being on Lifestyle Linear today.
All right. Thank you and good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.
1 second.